There we are. There's an ambulance. You see, I hope you can see the north wall and the south wall. Where's the building? You see the north wall and the south wall, and there's virtually nothing in between. This ambulance doesn't look clobbered. No crunched in marks. You don't see steel beams on the ground, just this aluminum cladding that was a decorative type material. There's some steel wheat checks here stabbed into the pavement off the picture, but there really is very little steel. A 110-story building just went missing. This was from a news report the day after.
Office is down in Lower Manhattan today, George. Jackie, Judd, and several other people keep asking us, where did all the rubble go?
If you look behind me, you can see the very remains, the skeletal remains of the World Trade Center. And one volunteer, Robert Gerlinski, explained to me the reason there's so little rubble is that all of it simply fell down into the ground and was pulverized.
You know, kind of silly there. I don't mean to pick on him. He's doing the best he can. What he's telling us is that there's virtually no building left. Here's a map of what was left. And let's focus at that point there, the base of Tower 1. 14 people walked out. 14 people walked out of here too. That little stub at the base of Tower 3. They were right down here at the base of Tower 1. 110-story building went away. And they weren't crushed. Jay Jonas, one of the firefighters trapped in there, said, I looked and said, guys, there used to be 106 floors above us, and now I'm seeing sunshine. There's nothing above us. Those big buildings don't exist. And he later said, these were the biggest office buildings in the world, and I didn't see one desk, one chair, one phone, nothing.
The collapse of the North Tower created a massive rush of air. The 110-story tower disintegrated in just 10 seconds.
They were debating if the towers collapse. They called it collapsing.
The collapse of the North Tower created a massive rush of air. The 110-story tower disintegrated in just 10 seconds. The collapse of the North Tower created a massive rush of air. The 110-story tower disintegrated in just 10 seconds.
In controlled demolition, buildings are chopped up into chunks, the chunks slam to the ground, and then there's dust. This is dust before it hits the ground. The Seattle Kingdom was a controlled demolition. Notice that the dust doesn't rise much above the highest point of the building. For Building 7, which is this little line here, it was a non-seismic event. Building 7 went away and didn't make a seismic event that you could register on this chart. Well, here's a controlled demolition, the Seattle Kingdom. March 26, 2000. The P wave arrives at the seismic station and the S wave arrives at the seismic station. See how closely spaced that signal is. It takes 4 seconds to drop a bowling ball off the roof of the kingdom, just to give you relative size. Yet the ground shook for at least 9 seconds in the major part, so at least twice as long instead of less. Here are other signals. There are 5 different recording stations for Building 7. None of them could see an S wave or a P wave. They calculated when it should have arrived. The 6.4 is the time it takes to drop a bowling ball off the roof. The surface wave lasted for less time. And actually, one of those stations, they couldn't even find a surface wave arriving. Where's the signal for Building 7? When NIST was having a meeting about trying to figure out what happened to Building 7, they were debating if the towers collapse, they called it collapsing, could have damaged the piping underground, and decided It couldn't.
I thought the seismic data you were going to look at was data associated with the collapse of the tower, particularly two.
The signal's strength due to the collapse of the towers were not of any magnitude that was seismically significant from an earthquake design standpoint, or from the design or failure of a structural component, or of, I would say, a piping system that might be used in a structure. So there wasn't anything that gave us pause in terms of that being a significant seismic event.
So what's going on here? No S wave, no P wave. Those two waves travel through the earth. This didn't slam to the ground. No big building slammed to the ground.